All right. Well, for sake of time, we'll just go ahead and get started here. Make sure we leave enough time at the end for any questions or anything like that. So a little bit of housekeeping. If you have questions during the webinar, if you scroll to the top of your screen, there's that little black control bar for the Zoom link. Excuse me. You can type in questions there under the Q&A section. You can type them in and we'll get to them at the end and go through all the different questions. So my name is Troy Daniels. We also have Matt Walker. Matt's also with us here, a trainer at SimpliPhi Power. Today we're going to be going through a little bit regarding our website, navigating the website, finding, what various different spec sheets, tools, integration guides, things like that. We're also going to be going through some of the various tools we have on the website that can really help make your life easier as an installer, a designer, or even a salesperson. All right. With that being said, though, I'm going to start just a little bit about SimpliPhi, run through our products very quickly, and then we'll jump right into it. So if you've seen a lot of my presentations, I apologize if you've seen this slide probably a couple times now, maybe a few times. But it's a really great jumping off point to show exactly what our company does. Safe, proven, and simple technology. Safe as it's non-toxic, non-hazardous, cobalt-free lithium iron phosphate chemistry. There's no risk of thermal runaway in our batteries. We have UL certified our cells at 1642, 1973 for the battery level, and 9540A on the system level. We also have UN DOT certified 3480, 38.3. We're actually SGIP approved. So if you are in California, you can take advantage of the SGIP program through our batteries. And our supply chain is very self-conscious about it, make sure that we know exactly where things are coming from. And we are very positive that, that we have the best practice around compared to maybe if you're looking at cobalt, where there are definitely some not so good child labor practices that go into place to mine that cobalt. We do not have the same kind of supply chain there, and we do not have lithium iron phosphate does not require the cobalt that does have that kind of harsher mining practices. Proven technology, over a decade of experience and growth. We've deployed in over 40 countries, over 100 megawatt hours installed worldwide, tested and validated by the US Army and Marine Corps. We actually have special permission from the FAA to fly, which is very rare for lithium batteries. I think we're still the only one possibly. And we actually manufacture these batteries in the United States. Simple technology, we really try to make the batteries as simple as possible, whether that just means the actual battery design and installation, or if we're going a little bit more in depth, looking at how we can maximize or optimize and integrate with any power generation source, whether it's grid, solar, generator, wind, really trying to make that as easy as possible. Okay, so again, lithium iron phosphate chemistry, and just in case you were curious, we use a cylindrical form factor. That is kind of the basis to our products. So product-wise, I'm going to go very quickly through these. Our main products include the 3.8 kilowatt hour battery. This comes in 24 volts and 48 volts. These are simple parallel batteries, meaning you are paralleling them, nothing in series. So, 224 volts is always going to still make a 24 volt. But there are no limits to how many you put into parallel. So they are scalable in that sense. They're modular. They are built to be kind of in a smaller design so that you can get exactly what energy or power requirements you might have, as well as a little bit easier to work with physically. Each of these batteries comes with an integrated battery management system, an integrated circuit breaker for protection and for ease of installation. The 1.4 kilowatt hour battery comes in 12 and 24 volts. So this is definitely the good route to go if you're going to be using 12 volts. This is scalable as well, small and lightweight at about 33 pounds. It's great for mobile applications. Actually, if you look here, The Anderson connector can come with the battery. This actually comes standard, or you can get it with bare wire. So there's no battery leads here exposed. It can be a great advantage when it comes to mobile applications. Still lithium iron phosphate, still an integrated battery management system. And it still is compatible with most of the standard charge controllers and inverters that we would normally integrate with on our larger batteries as well. Some smaller products, we have our all-in-ones, the Big Jenny and the Little Jenny. These are just portable power and emergency power kits. You can get it with the emergency kit here on the left to get that solar array edition. Still utilizing, again, lithium iron phosphate and still being put together in our facility. A little bit more all-in-one here. We also offer ESS solutions like the Express unit. This one actually is a little bit different than other ESS solutions as it does not require any sort of hardwire into your house. So it is NEMA 3R rated, DC quick connect inlet for charging from solar, AC inlet for charging straight from the grid. Actually has 4 outlets here and 2 USB ports. So you can actually pull power directly from this unit without having to wire to that loads panel. So if you were to charge up this unit, maybe stow it away in the garage, these batteries have very low self-discharge rate. You'll be able to stow it back, bring it back into the house when the power goes out without having it hardwired in and just start plugging loads in. You even plug a power strip in and use the power in the batteries and the energy stowed away. The Access, on the other hand, is an all-in-one solution that is meant to be hardwired to your loads panel, to a solar system, whether that's DC or AC coupled. It is also NEMA 3R, outdoor rated, pre-programmed. There are some tweaks you can make for various cases, modes of operation, depending on what the customer wants to use it for. But this actually comes in 2 different kinds, the Solarc Access unit using solar components, and the Schneider Access using Schneider components. If you're interested more in just kind of the base level of what we do in our product lines, definitely check out my battery SimpliPhi 101, where I kind of just go through really our product line and the basics of our company. This is going to be a little bit more pointed once we get through these next 3 slides. We're really going to focus on the website and the tools. High voltage solution is something we also offer. This could be for microgrids, large scale backups such as 480 volt 3-phase, something that an AC requirement's a little bit higher. This has an external BMS, a stat controller. This can be stacked 200, 800 VDC nominal, and then from there you can parallel those stacks to build out your energy storage. CAN bus, Modbus, Ethernet ready. If you are interested in our high voltage, a lot of people definitely come to us with projects. We actually have a project intake form that can really help us determine exactly what your requirements are and help you size and kind of figure out what the price might be and things like that when it comes to the high voltage solutions. The AmpliPHI batteries, our newest addition. This is our newest addition to our product line. It is a 3.8 kilowatt hour battery, similar to our standard Phi battery. The difference being it has a higher max discharge of 100 amps per battery at 10 minutes versus the 60 amps at 10 minutes that you might see on our standard battery. It is limited to 30 batteries in parallel, and that's due to the communication lines, which we'll talk about why that's even present. It is in a metal enclosure, unlike our standard battery, and same dimensions, however, a little bit heavier, but still fits in the same wall brackets and ESS solutions that the standard Phi battery does. The biggest difference is it has closed loop communications with the inverter. So this is true closed loop communications from the BMS. Currently, we're integrating with the Solarc inverters to do things like auto-populating set points, high-level protection, the flexibility and sizing to actually have a smaller battery on a larger inverter without the threat of over discharge, and really high-level accurate readings like state of charge, voltage, charge, and discharge. So we'll be adding more inverters onto that list of integrations here soon, but currently it is the Solarc that we are integrating with. Okay, so again, if you're interested in kind of finding more about just our standard stuff, standard products, installation, things like that, check out some of the standard website or trainings we've got on our website. So let's hop into the material here. So let's hop into the website. Oh, okay. So finding resources on the SimpliPhi page. So when we look at resources, there's definitely a lot of design installation resources. This can include everything from spec sheets, installation manual and wiring guides, and integration guides. You know, what's really the kind of key here? What is the reason to use these? Spec sheets, I would say, are a quick guide for finding key information, such as maybe the ratings of the battery, whether that's amp hour and voltage, the max current, the limits of the battery often can be found on the spec sheet for easy reference, and the dimensions and etc. for that. Installation manuals and wiring guides. These are going to kind of be the basic installation information and general overview. So not super specific, as every system is a little bit different on integration wise. But these give you a really good overview and definitely really help when it comes to things like wiring and torquing the battery and things like that. It also has great sizing explanations and guides to make sure that you're sizing things correctly and not voiding your warranty or anything like that. Integration guides, which I'm going to take you through the website here in a second. We're going to go right onto the website and do a little tour. Integration guides, these are probably the most helpful tools we have. They still have a lot of really cool stuff like sizing, wiring, has all that information in it, but it also has the specific power electronics you're trying to combine the system into. So whether that's, you know, an Outback or a Schneider or whatever it may be, and we're really calling out these specific set points. I'll leave it at that because we're going to actually go through them, and I'm going to show you some examples of the integration guides on our website. We also have warranties, which are always super important to look at. I mean, these are by the books, you know, telling you exactly what to do to make sure you are in warranty. I would say the biggest thing with the warranties is it will tell you to follow the installation or integration guide. So if you know, the two kind of go hand in hand, and kind of reading both is always super key and important. Also on the website, training calendar and IQ resources. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. So, but you can find past trainings, upcoming trainings, and information on our installer qualification program, which again, I'll go into depth as we get to that point later on. All right. We'll make sure this works here. So here's a basic kind of front page of our website here. And the majority of what you're going to find here is going to mostly be up in this section. I'm going to leave this untouched for now because we're going to go to that a little bit later. But if you're looking for any products, you know, maybe you're looking for just the energy storage, battery only storage systems, you know, you go to products and you can find a good list of all of our different products. A lot of the ones I went over, you're going to find like the access solution if you're interested in that. And the great part here is you can just click specifications, get a very rough overview of specifications right here without having to download anything, but also pull specific installation manuals or integration guides right from here as well. So the majority of the time I spend talking to installers as far as helping with design, helping when it comes to installation is going to be under the support tab. So again, we go up here to support, great resources on contacting information. But most importantly, we can find all of our product documentation. So if we click on product documentation, this is where we can just pull up all of our spec sheets, find them in one nice little area where we don't have to go from product to product. If you're doing an installation and you're just kind of trying to figure out the limits of the battery, use these spec sheets. They're great tools to just give you the exact, hey, this is the max continuous discharge. This is the max charge rate. You know, it gives you an amps DC, gives you it in kilowatts. Now you have an idea of how you need to size things, what is the limits of the battery warranty. Also give you some great stuff like max discharge at 10 minutes, even a discharge curves down here. So this is a really helpful tool. I definitely use the spec sheets when designing systems. Warranties, as I mentioned, you'll find all the warranties put into one place. I won't bore you too much. Just know that you go to these warranties, and it's a lot of information, but just looking at the key sections, and really, we try to make some tables on these various warranties to really help you get those correct sizing and programming as easy as possible. Okay, again, I mentioned installation-wise, the various, like the basic installation manuals you're going to find for these batteries are going to be very kind of just standard, easy to follow, but not super specific when it comes to integrating and programming with specific inverters. I will say, if you're installing one of our access solutions, the installation manual is the kind of, this is what I would use. This is definitely the main point. You're not going to use the integration guide in that case as much. Cool thing with any document on our website, you can actually click on the sections straight from there, and you'll be able to see exactly that section. So you can use the table of contents again to actually just click directly on wiring, and it'll bring you down to that section. Okay, something that I think is often overlooked is our wiring guide. So that's actually under the installation and operation manuals here under core power. If you do a lot of SimpliPhi installs or looking to do your first, this wire guide is extremely extensive. It can actually be found in that section. It goes through different wiring methods, what to do, what not to do, even helps a little bit with cable sizing and things like that on a pretty general basis. So I think this is a document people miss a lot, but again, if you're under installation operation manuals, the wiring guide is a great resource. Okay, just to wrap up this section, integration guides. These are my favorite. These are the most important, I think, when it comes to what you're looking for as far as programming and integration with another product. So here we have the Schneider integration guide. Great stuff here. We have battery bank sizing based on charge controllers. We have the inverter set points here. Again, called out specifically with the Schneider language, where it'll give you the exact value that we would recommend. Even has the charge controller set points for that same company's charge controller. Goes into things like battery monitors and the various set points there. Even this one even has some more advanced stuff like the AGS automatic generator start set points. And again, it always calls out kind of specifics on wiring and sizing, but we've got a whole list of these integration guides, Magnum, Midnight, Morningstar, Outback, Samlex, Schneider, Selectronics, Solarc, and Victron. We're always trying to build this up. So if there's one on there that you really like to use often and we get enough people requesting it, we can always add another one up here. But these are super helpful tools. All right, last thing I'll show, and then we're actually going to go into these one by one from the back into the PowerPoint, is our tools section. So this is really what we want to talk about today in a lot more detail. These various system tools, whether it's sizing, cost of energy, lead acid replacement. We built all these tools to kind of hopefully make the installer's life a little bit easier, make the salesperson, the designer's life a little easier, to really calculate out a lot of numbers. So with that, let's pop right into tools. The first tool I want to talk about today is our QuickPhi 3.8 bank calculator. So this calculator is a very easy, rough, there's not a lot of kind of Q&A to it, I guess you could say. It's very straightforward. What is your energy storage, or what is your load requirements? Here is what the battery quantity would be. So again, it's really based on, these calculations, what your customer is already asking for as far as hey, I've only used, 10, maybe you did a load calculation, you definitely always should, but maybe you've come up with the exact average daily consumption that you're looking for. So just to give you an example of running through this, let's assume that for this case, we had an off-grid installer or off-grid install. So maybe we know that they use 20 kilowatt hours per day. That number is probably a little bit higher than our average, just to be safe when it's off-grid. And let's say they really only want 1 day of backup because we did size this a little large, and we're not, thinking about PV also being a source to really provide a lot of the energy in the day and the power during the day. We can actually select which battery we're looking at, whether it's 48 or 24 volt here. So we do 48 volts, and this is great. We get 8 batteries, and it actually gives us various ratings like amp hour rating, the usable capacity at specific depth of discharge, which we'll talk about here on my next example. And it even gives you things like max continuous charge and discharge of the entire 8 battery bank there. And it's just a really helpful, easy to use tool that can really, just move things along. If you, have a big average daily consumption, you just want to make sure, maybe even just check your math. You can always send this to us as well. So if you have, and this is really with any of our forms, you'll see this little section, I'd like more information, where you can actually just type in your info there and have it sent straight to our website through our inboxes, and somebody will get back to you, whether that's sales or support, depending on which tool you're using. So let's assume that maybe we're doing this with a battery backup system. Oops, sorry there. All right, let's clear this out so it doesn't get too messed up. So 3.5, let's say. So let's assume that a customer wants about 3.5 kilowatt hours of backup. This is a backup system, so it's not, this is critical loads. And let's say they do want 2 days of autonomy though. Same thing, we can actually calculate it out here, and we can see that we need 4 batteries for that customer to get this 3.5 over a 2-day period, so twice. Cool thing is, if we're backup, we might want to say, hey, I want to use more than 80% depth of discharge. You can actually delete that there. If it's 100, type in a 1. And look at that. We went from 4 batteries to now we actually can use 3 batteries if we use more of the battery's usable capacity. So this is a really cool way to kind of play around with it and say, to the customer, if you're using, if you're using 80% depth of discharge, which your battery is going to last a little bit longer, you got 4 batteries to purchase. If you're using 100%, you can get away with 3 batteries, but you might expect a little bit shorter lifespan in the battery. So a cool tool to kind of give you an idea of how to present kind of options for the customer in that case. So that is a quick overview of our QuickPhi 3.8 battery calculator. All right. On a much more advanced and much more intuitive kind of calculator, we have our system-based phi calculator. This one takes in all sorts of different factors. We're going to show you here in a second, but it's really an advanced calculator that takes in various factors for further design and sizing help, and make sure that based not only on the loads, but related to the balance of the system. What are you using it for? What are the various power electronics within the system? And it really lets us hone in on exactly different values. I'll show you kind of what I mean here. Let's pop into this calculator. Word of quick kind of housekeeping on this specific calculator. It does take a second sometimes to load because it is pretty advanced. There's a lot of different sections to it. So just be patient if it's not loading. See, now it is loaded, but it did take a second there. All right, so this is a great little calculator. So I'll take you through 2 examples here on this one. The first kind of coolest part here is we get to pick between DC and AC coupled, and it's actually really important part. You can pick AC charging as well. I'm not going to take you through an example of that, but just know that AC charging is referring to if you are just using, let's say maybe like for a UPS where you just have an inverter charger and the battery, no sort of renewables whatsoever in the system. So let's say we're DC coupled for this example. Let's say we're using a 24-volt battery. Let's assume it's our 3.8 24-volt. You can see here there's tons of options. Even some of our older batteries are in that option. All right, so now that we've typed in that, we've got a few different kind of values that have auto-populated. Our max continuous discharge per battery is right here. And max continuous charge in amps DC is right here. So we pick our inverter, and obviously this won't have every single inverter. If there's not, if there's an inverter that you want to use that's not on this list, let us know. We're always happy to amplify these calculators to have more and more information. Let's say for this example, I'm using the MS 2024, the smaller Magnum inverter. Let's say I only have one of those inverters. I know that I'm only using one based on, hey, this customer only needed about 2,000 as far as continuous power goes. So it'll give you the max load rating in kilowatts of that specific inverter. And the total, if you had multiple inverters, this would obviously change. And now this is the minimum quantity of 5 batteries. So specifically this 24-volt 3.8 recommended to ensure that you do not over discharge your battery. So this is the minimum quantity you'd want on that inverter. So this calculator actually gives you that. It says you may need to make sure you have 2 of these 3.8s on this inverter. And that takes into account, over discharge, not on just a continuous basis, but if we were to look at max discharge as well. So now we've kind of got started here, we can put in more system information. So again, it already auto-populated that the max charge rate in amps DC is 45 amps. We have an amps DC because we're talking about charge controllers here. We're talking about DC power. So it's a little easier just to use that value. So we've got a ton of charge controllers here you can pick from as well. Let's say for this example, we're using the Magnum charge controller, the PT100. So that didn't change our value here, which is great. And to be real honest with you, charge controllers can be set as far as the limit on the charger, it can be set low. So if this value does go up, let's say maybe, let's see if we can get it to go up. Probably not with this small of a battery. But if that does go up where, you end up, it says more batteries are needed for the charge controller. Just note that mostly means that you just need to make sure the limits are set properly on the charge controller. Okay. Now we can even type in what is our load again. So similar to the other calculator. So let's say we have 10 kilowatt hours per day for this customer, 1 day of autonomy. I was having this problem earlier. I had to reset my computer to get it to work. I'm not sure why it's not working there again, but I was able to get this to work earlier. And it did kick out at least, so minimum quantity should reflect this one as well. But it looks like some sort of bug going on my computer. I apologize. I'm not sure why that is. But the quantity here is still the same. So that's good. We know that we shouldn't be changing batteries because of that. Now we can go up here. Cool thing is we can actually type in, so let's go back to our inverter quantity. Let's say we have 2 inverters this time. So when we have 1, you can see that's at 2. When we have 2, now we've changed the value, and it's changed the value for every single one of these where it says quantity for the entire system. So it'll always give you the highest value, whether that's based on the load, whether that's based on the max, the inverter that you're using. So it'll make sure that it's always calculating based on what's the biggest requirement, whether that's load, inverter, discharge, whatever it may be. So this kind of all number here that's always colored in purple is going to be your kind of, this is the one you want to use no matter what. All right, let's do one more example of this before I move on. And that would just to be to use the AC coupled. So let's go ahead and I'm actually going to go ahead and reload just to make sure that I don't have that same issue. All right, again, takes a little second here. When you load this calculator, there's a lot of info that goes through it. Just got to be a little patient with it. There we go. So this time, let's go AC coupled, which, we're talking retrofits here. This is really common. We have a lot of installers that maybe haven't even installed batteries before. I would absolutely recommend using this calculator. It's just going to make things so much easier to ensure that you're doing things correctly. So we can pick our battery type that we want to use to AC couple with. Again, it spits out some kind of spec sheet numbers down here. We can pick the inverter. Let's say we are AC coupling and our battery-based inverter is a Schneider XW. This would actually be the Pro now. I believe it looks to be the XW Plus still, but the values are still the same. Let's say we have one of these inverters we want to tie with. You can kind of get some PSA here, the inverter, just talking about AC coupling with specific grid tied inverters and how to get more information on that and make sure everything works that way. But back to the calculator. So we've picked the Schneider inverter as our battery-based inverter. We get these different values like the max load rating, the max load rating in kilowatts for the entire thing. So again, if we typed in 2, you can see that number doubles. So go back to 1. So based on this so far, we need 4 batteries minimal. And that's really doing it based on the inverter more than anything in this case. Now we come down here and we worry about charge. Really, solar is what we're talking about. Now, I'm going to just give you an example. I'm going to tell you a little bit here that if you have, let's say you can never connect 10. Currently, I would not recommend connecting 10 kilowatts of PV to the Schneider, single Schneider, as it really does, it can only handle so much per its own warranty. But you saw that when we added more PV, the battery quantity went up, and it went up to kind of match that charge rate that it would expect to see from 10 kilowatts of PV. Because when AC coupling, we can't always guarantee that the charge rate will be limited. Let's say we were sized correctly for this one. So let's say we had a 6 kilowatt array, which would fit nicely with the Schneider XW Plus. We still have 4 batteries now minimal. It's really kind of a helpful, just double check there. Let's see if this time if it works. I'm sorry if it's not going to work again. I think I had to clear my cache again, and it's just not liking me today. Okay, this one worked. So let's say we knew the average daily consumption was 10. So we got 4 batteries still. We're still okay. We're still sticking with that 4. Let's say we typed in, let's not go too crazy here. Let's say 50. Now we can see that we would actually want to take that value. So, the highest number is always what I would recommend taking. And you can see if we said that our kilowatt hours per day that the customer expects to cover are that high, regardless of this other stuff, 50 is the way to go. And there's 17 batteries is going to be the way to go. The nice part is, these numbers probably should be pretty close if you've done all your calculations correct. So if you say 10 kilowatt hours per day, this will give you that quantity there. It'll spit out some other information like total bank capacity here in kilowatt hours, the usable capacity at 80% depth of discharge, the total max continuous of that battery bank, and the max continuous in amps DC as well. I know it's a lot to take in. I'd just say mess around with this calculator. It's super helpful. If you have any questions, you can always contact us directly. Or you can always use this form again to fill out your information. Send us what you've typed in here, and we can take a look and really analyze the data and see if there's anything that needs to be changed. But just kind of keep in mind, the light purple, is giving you the minimum quantity of batteries requirements based on the power ratings. But this kind of dark purple is really is a kind of keyest number here that we want to make sure we're using that number, that dark purple. All right. With that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Matt. And Matt is going to go ahead and talk to us a little bit about 2 different calculators that he's going to go over.
Awesome. Thanks, Troy. You want to go ahead and pass over those controls? Okay, perfect. So thanks for the info on that last calculator. I think that's really helpful, especially when you're trying to see how many batteries you need in different types of systems, AC coupled versus DC coupled. But I want to run through this lead acid battery bank replacement calculator. This is going to be especially helpful when you're an installer replacing lead acid batteries, you're a sales team, or even for a homeowner. This is a really useful tool when you're shopping around because it's so simple. All you need to do is to basically find the specs of your lead acid batteries. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. It's gonna open up in just a second here. And this considers several different factors regarding both of the battery banks to make sure you get the right sized bank. And so let's say that we've got, I'm just making up a bank size here. Let's say we've got 20 lead acid batteries. Oops. And we've got 12 volts each and 100 amp hours. So that leaves you with 24 kilowatt hours of storage, but at a 40% depth of discharge, you're going to end up with usable 9.6 kilowatt hours. And that's pretty standard. That's generally between 20 and 50% is where each manufacturer recommends. And I'll go ahead and go with our most popular battery, the 48 volt 3.8. So we'll consider here that you wired your lead acid battery bank to be 48 volts with a combination of series and parallel connections. So to replace that bank, you just need 3 batteries, 3 of our 5 3.8 batteries, and it's definitely going to be a lot smaller. It's going to save you some space. So this is a really nice calculator. Like I said, even a homeowner can use this as they're shopping around. That would give them an idea of maybe the costs that they're looking at for their project, so they can know if this is right for them. And then I also wanted to jump into this just replacement guide. If you're looking for more in-depth information, this is going to help you go a little bit further, especially for those installers. And so that's right at the bottom of that screen there. All right, so I'll go ahead and go back to the PowerPoint. One more tool I want to run you guys through. When we're looking at sales and cost comparison tools specifically, LCOES, Levelized Cost of Energy Storage, is super important when you're shopping around still. This is a tool that's going to help you understand the return on investment of your battery bank. And so this is going to be the lifetime cost basically per kilowatt hour delivered is what we really want to know here. That's what's important when you're investing. So I always love this photo. Time is money here. And what we're doing is we're saving you installers, homeowners, and sales teams tons of time with these simplified tools. Pardon the pun. So let's say we've got our most popular battery, our 48 volt, 3.8 kilowatt hour battery. I recently saw a quote from, I believe it was Northern Arizona Wind and Sun for $26.99. And I always want to go with 80% depth of discharge. That's going to give me the longest lifespan of my batteries. It's going to end up warranting a throughput of 27 megawatt hours over the lifetime of the battery. So that results in a levelized cost of energy storage of just under 9 cents per kilowatt hour delivered. That's really low, but you also want to keep in mind that at the end of the warranted life, the battery still has 80% of its original capacity left over. So that means even after throughput of this 27 megawatt hours delivered to your loads, you still got 80% of that original capacity. So you're going to get a bunch of bonus kilowatt hours delivered, lowering that cost even more, which I think is probably the highest in the industry. So let's just compare this to lead acid batteries, since we just did the lead acid calculator. I'm going to use a real example of an AGM battery that I had in a camper van a little while ago. It is a 12 volt battery, 200 amp hour battery, and I was using it at 50% DOD. So I had a usable 1.2 kilowatt hours of storage, and that resulted in a 40 cents per kilowatt hour cost of that battery, compared to, again, our 9 cent per kilowatt hour. And you can compare these to other lithium batteries as well, as long as you know the similar specs, voltage, amp hour, and the cost of the battery you want to compare to. You can really put any type of battery into here. Awesome, and I'll hand it back over to you, Troy, to finish off. I think you're probably going to mention something about IQ.
Yep, awesome. Great job, Matt. Thanks for running through those tools for us. Take control back here. So last slide, we're going to go through kind of the last section just to wrap it up. And again, if you've got any questions regarding any of these tools or just general questions, that Q&A is still open. I see some questions in there already, but feel free to type them in now. And we've got a little bit of time here at the end. We can run through those. So I want to talk about our IQ, Elite IQ Installer program. I just want to preface by saying this program is not a requirement to install our batteries. It is more of a great added benefit as the installer to really promote your business, kind of show that you know what you're talking about when it comes to installing our batteries, installing our products. Okay. So I will kind of, let me just take this real quick over here. Okay, so just FYI, if you're looking for this page I just landed on, under support, IQ Installer Qualification, this is the page that we're sitting on right now. So you can kind of see a little bit about SimpliPhi, a nice little shot of some swag. Actually, this is updated even. We've got, I think, better looking hats now and some really cool swag that's offered. But, you know, if we go through perks of actually coming through this, you have the ability to go through this training across different applications. You know, you really get a co-brand and co-market with us in a way of using this Elite IQ symbol, as well as being part of, most important, I'd say, our where to buy page. So when people click on that where to buy page, you know, as an IQ installer of ours, you actually show up as an IQ installer here. So, you know, if we click on somebody and if maybe a homeowner is looking at where to buy and they want to go direct to the installer, so that the installer can go to the distributor and get all the different parts and pieces, you'll show up on our map as somebody that we trust to install our batteries that has gone through this process. So it's a huge benefit when it comes to kind of promoting your own business. We get a lot of website traffic, so it's definitely, you know, it's a big visual addition for your brand to be up there. Requirements for the program is to complete one of the IQ application forms here. So it's a really easy online application form, just asking some kind of basic questions. If you've got all the requirements, you might be able to add some more material there just to get the process going really fast. Complete a webinar or in-person trainings. So if you go here, you can actually see our current listings by clicking on this, but also if you go up here, you'll see our current listings as well under training calendar. You can see what's up and coming. Now, when it comes to the IQ program, we want you to attend one of 3 trainings. So if you are to do a webinar in person, it needs to be the IQ Battery 101. Most have probably already taken that, but that's kind of the general one that I would recommend to take. As well as you must complete, and I give the option here of webinar in person or just watching the videos on YouTube of previous channels, since we don't have a ton of these that come up, but we do have a lot. I definitely recommend doing it in person or in webinar form is going to be a lot better than watching it on YouTube, as you really get to see the most up-to-date information. But the 2 trainings would be again, the IQ training, the charge, discharge, and state of charge. I actually have one of those, I think, coming up maybe in a couple weeks here. And the AC and DC coupling of a PV system one as well. You must also complete 2 SimpliPhi installs to become part of this program. Again, this is not a requirement to install our batteries. It's an added benefit for those that already have. And a very brief online exam that we are always happy to help out with, that we send out to the installer after they've applied. You also must be authorized to install batteries within your local jurisdiction. So obviously local jurisdictions are different. Just make sure that you explain why you are able to legally pass inspection and actually install batteries. So that is kind of a brief overview of the IQ program. If you're interested, I definitely recommend applying for this program. If you've already installed our batteries, I would definitely recommend applying for this program and seeing these benefits right away. All right. With that, I am going to go ahead and pop open the Q&A here and just take a look at what we can see. What is the warranty of the electronics in the battery for the BMS? Warranty for the battery is everything. So it's that 10-year warranty is applying to everything within the battery, within its limits, of course, of the standard, what we'd expect the battery to be used for. And things like max charge and discharge, go into that. When you mentioned the access, I think you mentioned that although pre-programmed, there are various parameters that can be changed based on what the customer would like to do. Is there a place on your website or somewhere to find those parameters, such as the customer that wants backup only, or someone that wants to use the system for self-consumption? There's some app notes that we can definitely, from the actual inverter companies, I can help out with there. But really, if you've got kind of a specific mode of operation, it's not super covered in the access manual because everything varies so much depending on how the customer wants to use it. If it's kind of outside of that just standard, hey, charge, discharge, grid goes down, use it as backup. If you want to change kind of specific things and you have a customer that really wants to use something specific, I would definitely recommend just give us a call. Write that number actually right there. Great number. All right, awesome. Answer that question. Are these batteries available to support Caribbean climate? Do you have an app to manage or to see the operation of these systems? So the system monitoring is really done through the inverter and the charger. We don't have battery specific monitoring. However, our AmpliPHI batteries soon will hopefully have that ability to have the battery level without even worrying about what the inverter or charger is doing. Caribbean climate, tons of battery in the Caribbean. I personally have spent a lot of time in that area with our batteries and various different climates that I see our batteries put in over there, different use cases. Obviously, there's limits, there's temperature limits, and there's humidity limits as far as really need to make sure it's not, sitting outside exposed to weather, things like that. But no problem at all working in that kind of climate. And we do have a lot of batteries down there. Can access inverter replace bi-Victron inverter? I'm guessing, I'm not sure exactly what that question means. If you're asking, can we send an access and then you replace it with the Victron? I would definitely say no. If you want to use the Victron, just use the Victron with our battery. We have got an integration guide for it. But as far as the access solution goes, we don't want to modify that access, and we don't plan on offering a different type of access anytime soon.
Just to add on to that, you could check out the Boss cabinet for that purpose, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Boss cabinet being similar cabinet to the, I actually showed it when we were going through the website there. It's an all-in-one NEMA 3R rated battery cabinet where you could rack up all the batteries with bus bars, with cabling, and still have that outdoor rating, and then connect to your inverter, kind of to give it that more all-in-one look if you don't want to go with the access. Do SimpliPhi make 1,100 volts cold cranking rating battery for vehicle for starting purposes? I do not recommend our battery for motor startups. If it's really something you want to do, I would definitely say contact us, and we can look at specific ratings. But for the most generalized part, I would say I never would recommend our battery in a startup for a motor. Now, as power for a home or an RV, definitely. But where do we find the certificate of origin for exporting? Good question, Jim. I don't know for sure. Matt, I'm guessing you might not know either, but just want to make sure before I give not the best answer.
No, I'm not sure, but we can definitely find that for you.
Yeah, I'd say, let me just double check, Jim. It might be somewhere readily available just to pull, but if not, I know we could at least send it. I don't see any branch locations in Asia. Any specific reason for that? No specific reason. Those aren't branches. They're actually just distribution partners. We're always happy to take on more distribution partners. We don't necessarily actively go looking for them, and just don't have any currently in the Asian market. So, but if you're an installer or a distributor in Asia and want to get involved, we're always happy to take on more distributors and more installers. Good question. So on that same kind of note, how about 240 volts, 50 hertz for the voltage in Asia? Yeah, it doesn't matter. Our batteries aren't the one controlling that. That'd be on the inverter. So if you can find an inverter that pairs with our batteries that also has that output, you are good to go, which I can think of a few. Outback, I know, has a 240, 50 hertz inverter. Actually, I think they even have one specific for Asia. So that would pair with our batteries. Our batteries don't necessarily care what's on the AC side of things. All right. Well, looks like, we got one more question. Can access do 3-phase? So kind of. The SolarArc access has the ability to do 120 volts on a 3-phase system. So it can't actually do the full 3-phase. So if you really are looking for true 3-phase, I would definitely recommend not using the access, but to go ahead and just pair inverters outside of the access solution. All right, looks like we're just breaching our time almost. Looks like questions are all answered. So I just want to give a big thanks to everybody that jumped on. Matt, I want to thank you as well for joining us and briefing us on the tools you went over.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. If you're looking for any more information, you can email us at training@simpliphipower.com. Give us a call at that number below. You can connect to our pre-sales line to talk about anything you're designing or building, or if you already have a system in place and you want to talk through various things, call our tech support line. We're happy to help. Big thanks to everybody. We'll be sharing the slides after the presentation at some point. And we will definitely be posting this recording on our website as well. All right. Thank you, everybody.